Hi.
Hi.
So I am here today with Kimberly Pendleton of Heartspace. She is, in addition to being like just an amazing women's studies professor and women's empowerment coach, she's also kind of a badass human and just a really great personal friend of mine. So basically, when I was creating the Clarity Cure, I asked Kim to kind of test drive it for me. She has a really beautiful outlook on stuff like this. And what she got out of it was tremendous. So
That's awesome.
I wanted to give you guys like a little example of what one person can do with this in case you are, maybe procrastinating a little bit or not like fully committed to finishing strong. So
Yes.
I'm going to throw it to Kim. Why don't you just first tell us a little bit like who you are?
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. First of all, I'm just so psyched to be talking to you guys today, and just so excited to really brag on the Clarity Cure, which I do any chance I can because it was just had such an impact on me. But yeah, so I am a women's studies professor and a women's empowerment coach. Basically just no boys allowed in like anything I do. But my work has really been, at the heart about bringing some of the feminist tools that are very much kind of like isolated in academia and like the women's studies world and kind of like spreading them out to the rest of us with coaching and workshops and to like infuse some of that empowerment material with art and beauty and stuff that feels just like really good and makes it really easy to sink into. And yeah, it's been a journey to sort of figure out how to bring those two worlds together. And that is a huge part of what was so clarifying for me out of doing the Clarity Cure.
I just want to give so many praise hands for what you just said because it was I feel like as really creative, passionate people, we sometimes get tongue-tied around like connecting all of our passion and like putting it into a container that other people can understand.
Right.
And that was so like beautiful and articulate and representative of you. So I got excited. So
yes.
Yeah. So to kind of help us understand your process,
right?
Where were you before the Clarity Cure? Like, what were some of the things you were going through?
Yeah, this is such a funny thing for me to think about because, in some ways it wasn't that different. And then in other ways, it feels like a whole other lifetime just because there was such a big shift for me in terms of like understanding how things all connected. So a lot of the ingredients were the same. Like I was teaching classes at colleges, I was teaching workshops at a local art studio. In the meantime, I was kind of like running all these different things like a feminist film club and like vision board classes. And it felt just very disconnected. Like I knew I was connecting them all, but people would sign up for they would come to like a feminism 101 class and then they would want to come make a vision board. And I would be like, I kind of get this, but like also I don't know. And I was sort of acting like I had a double life. Like I was doing things in one area and they had like absolutely nothing to do with another area, which I knew wasn't true, but it just felt so crazy. And it felt really hard to like walk into a faculty meeting and be like, here's my glitter glue. Or it felt hard to like go to a vision board workshop and be like, let me teach you the like 4 principles of patriarchy dismantling, just kind of, I felt like I was all over the place. And as you could probably imagine, what went with that was just feeling really scattered too. Like I knew I had a mission. I sometimes felt really tapped into what it was. And then the rest of the time, I just felt busy and weird. So that was just like very challenging. Yeah. And so it was just so helpful to have somebody bring those things together.
I love this so much. And I think it's really understandable when we do have these passions and we're wondering where to put all of them, to
Yeah.
get super frustrated and feel like the weirdo, feel like we're living
Right.
a double life, especially,
Right.
for people with a day job that's not connected to these passions.
Right. Right.
And the truth is there is a thread that runs
Right.
through everything.
Exactly.
We just need someone to kind of reflect that back and, tell us what the container is sometimes.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay. So with the Clarity Cure, I know you said you were kind of scattered. Where are you now? Like what's shifted and changed?
Yes. Yeah, I really appreciate that question. So the main thing that shifted was the exercise about thinking about the gift that you were here to give and sort of like using that as a thread to connect empowerment through all these different avenues. So that was just, it gave like a language for that to really bring everything together, and to even see that even if the methods were different, some of the same tools were at play in all those different areas.
Totally. Like the guts of it are the same. It may be
Right.
in like different wrappers, but
Exactly.
the empowerment is like the thread that runs through everything.
Right. Exactly.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay. And so, I know a lot of times with my clients, when their work clarity level changes,
Yeah.
it has ripple effects.
Right.
So I'm curious, like what else has shifted for you as a result of this clarity?
Right. Yes, that is such an amazing question. So I would say that that lack of clarity really was spilling over into like a lot of other areas too. And I was just feeling really like discombobulated, and it was like hard to sleep and hard to be just like really relaxed in any kind of, like with friends or with my partner, or just kind of, I think I was like always thinking about all those questions, like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I live in a city where there's a lot of like, what do you do? Questions like getting asked all
Totally.
the time. And so I feel like when things shifted and it felt kind of like, oh no, there is this overarching goal of like empowering women and bringing these tools together, whether they're artsy or academic, kind of like fusing them. I just felt almost like a calm, like, oh yes, like I make sense. And like, I think it meant that other things felt like they could relax too. Like I could be more present in the moment. And that ended up having this sort of feedback loop where it was like, oh, then my work is actually going to be able to get better. Then I can calm down even more. And then that could just like sort of keep feeding itself.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was so great. And then I would say, so it's so funny because I did feel a lot calmer. That was definitely like one, one kind of effect. But then at the same time, sort of like an opposite effect was I was so energized, because it was like once I had like honed in on this thing, I was like, I want to like go talk about this. And so
Totally.
I had this funny experience of like actually having to pause the Clarity Cure and like write down like ideas I was having, like, oh my God, well, in that case, I want to like make a class that really brings these things together more. Or in that case, I have this to say in a blog post. And it was funny because there was like an element of frenzy to that, but it was a totally different kind of frenzy. It wasn't like the chaos of before. It was like focus and then energy coming from that focus, which was just like so wonderful.
This just like this is what I live for.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that with me
Oh my
and
gosh,
with
fantastic.
the people watching this, because I mean it just sounds like once that snapped into place, you've been present, you've been unstuck, you've been able to enjoy other parts of your life because one feels like you're finally on purpose. You're on the right track.
Right.
And like, let's be real, it's painful. It's downright soul painful to not have that feeling.
Right.
So no wonder like all of these other areas of your life were affected. Right.
Totally. Yeah.
So if there's someone watching this who, you know, downloaded the Clarity Cure and is kind of interested, but maybe worried about, am I doing it right? Is this good enough? I just don't have time to finish. Like what advice would you give someone who's like halfway through to try to help them finish strong?
Yes, I would just say, you know, there's so much advice given, especially to women, to look outside for answers. And when it comes to our career, that's like so true in particular, where it's like, find a mentor, get advice from someone who's done what you want to do. And there's just so much encouragement to look outside. And I would just say, like, the real magic of the Clarity Cure is that it's telling you to do the opposite thing. It's helping you go inward instead. And so, like, kind of, you know, I'm a professor, I'm into outside advice, but, you know, there is that inner wisdom, that inner wise woman, as Amy calls her, who can show you. And so I would say, you know, stick with it, because you get to that sweet part at the end where you feel like you have really led yourself to the place that you want to be. And that's just so different. It's so different that it's, I think, pretty revolutionary.
That is so beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much for creating this.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for helping me test it and sharing your wisdom. If there's anything I want to leave the people watching this video with, is just, it is this idea of inner wisdom and inner rightness. Like what you're desiring and what you want to do is right on this fundamental soul level. So hearing you articulate how it's connected the threads, I think, is so inspirational for me. So I hope it's inspirational and sending out some sparks for the people watching. So
me too.
Thank you for doing this.
You're so welcome. Anytime.
Awesome. Well, if you are still working on the Clarity Cure, get to work and let us know what amazing innovations and creations you've come up with.
Absolutely.
So, Kim, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You're hanging around here, and we will sign off so they can make some magic happen.
To work. Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, Amy.